not events. And the difference is microphones. So it's set up for one microphone. And so that's why I'm borrowing the speaker's microphone. I really want you to know Mr. Allister over here, who's just walking up the stairs, has been an amazing blessing. I don't want anyone, amen. I don't want anyone here to think that he's tech illiterate and couldn't figure out microphone situation. He's been amazing at just getting us set up to the point that we are. You don't know the challenges that he's run into. So anyhow, really appreciate you, Alistair, and your good wife, Miranda, and the help you've been. So we're here to listen to Dr. Mark Sandoval continue to share. For those who were here last night, you received a blessing. You told me so. And we're looking forward to many more blessings today. I want to make sure that you know there's plenty of water up there. There's copy paper and pens if you need that. Certainly take advantage of that. If we can be of further help, certainly let us know. Glory, raise your hand. Glory back there, raise your hand. She's our event coordinator. If you need something, feel free to see her. She'll try and help you out. And you can also see me if I'm not up here. So want to introduce Dr. Mark. Dr. Mark, there's a scripture that says there's a friend who sticks closer than a brother. And right now I'm sticking closer than a brother. I do consider him a friend and a brother. He was a great blessing to me and my wife. We were one of, if not his last patient at UG Pines. And so we got to meet him there, and I got to listen to his presentation somewhat there, and thought, wow, what a blessing. People need to hear this. Everyone needs to hear these messages. They are a tremendous blessing. I'm glad you're here to take advantage of that opportunity. We are glad you're here. Dr. Mark is a board certified in emergency medicine and lifestyle medicine. He served as the founder and chairman of Health, Health by the book, president and medical director of UG Pines Institute, former health ministers director of the Gulf States Conference, and currently serves as founder and president of New Paradigm Ministries. And we're glad to be able to have him come all the way from Missouri, like an 11-hour drive he made just to be with us this weekend. And he brought his family. They're not here right at the moment, but I'm sure they'll be along shortly. We're glad that he was able to bring his wife and 4 of his 6 children along with him. A great blessing to be able to have them in our home this weekend. So without further ado, let's have a word of prayer, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Mark. Heavenly Father, thank you, Lord, for this day. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. We pray that your Spirit will direct all that Dr. Mark says and all that we hear. Bless us all, we pray, so we can bless others. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you. Sorry, just getting all my mics lined up. We have one for the live stream and one for this building and one for recording. So we've got 3 microphones. At least I'm not doing the president thing and standing in front of a podium that has 50 microphones on it. That would be interesting. It's good to be here and to continue from where we left off last time. If you did not have the opportunity of being here yesterday, there is a live stream, and that is bgsda.org. BG, Bowling Green, SDA.org. And the live stream is on there, and you should be able to catch the prior ones on there as well, because everything that we're talking about, we're going to be building upon what we have talked about previously. And we are looking at this topic of the law of life. And for those that aren't aware, there is a book that goes along with it. Tomorrow afternoon, when we have our final meetings, then we'll have that and some other things available as well. And if you can't make it, it's on Amazon also for those who are interested. So carrying on from where we left off last time, we need to recognize that if we have things wrong, if we have it backwards, and we think that the cause is the effect, or if we think that the effect is the cause, then we're going to end up having problems. For example, you see the picture here. You have cars that are running off of the road, off of the cliff, and the solution is an ambulance down in the valley to pick up the traumas that are left over from the accidents that have been happening. So if we think that the problem is the accidents that happen at the bottom of the valley, then that's what we're going to end up trying to address and trying to fix, when in reality the problem lies before that, right? So if we think the cause is the effect, or we believe that the effect is the cause, we're not going to understand how something functions, and we're always going to try to fix problems the wrong way, and we're never going to really fix the problem or find the cure. The solution in this particular context is to put warning signs, guardrails, lines on the roads, and so on to prevent the accidents from happening. So we need to understand cause and effect correctly in order for us to be able to then come to correct conclusions and to have correct understandings. So when it comes to disease, and what we talked about yesterday, for those that were here, what is it that causes disease? We had a road. We talked about getting off the road, right? And you have symptoms, disease, and even death. Go ahead. What's that? Discomfort. All right. So when you get off the road, you have discomfort and you have dysfunction. And what is it that defines whether you're on the road or whether you're off the road? Law, right? So law defines whether you're on the road or whether you're off the road. So disease is something that we experience when we get outside of the law, right? It's not something that you experience when you're inside the law. It's something that you experience when you get outside of the law. So what is it that can break law? Right? What is it that can break or go outside of law? All right, I can. You can. Anybody here ever broken any laws? Yeah, my hand's up. I was 19 the last time I got a speeding ticket. I very much deserved it. I think I was 16 when I got my first speeding ticket, and I deserve that one too. And I have not gotten a speeding ticket since that time, but that does not mean that I didn't deserve it on a few occasions. So is it something that is physical that can break law, or is it something spiritual that can break a law? Okay? All right. So it's actually only something that's spiritual that can break a law. Now, something physical can be used in the process of breaking law. So I could take a physical vehicle and I can decide to drive it faster than a speed limit, or I can decide to take it through an intersection and a red light, or I can take a bat and I can use it to damage something with. But the bat itself can't do it. The vehicle itself can't do it. Something that's physical itself can't do it. It has its origin always in something spiritual. It is only something that has a spiritual component that can lead to the breaking of a law or going outside of a law. So what is it that leads a spiritual entity to go outside of law? So it's error. And in this case, and for us, it's an error of the mind. So there's an error of the mind that causes us to go outside of law and then to have the consequences of that, which we suffer in a number of different ways. Now, are there things that are absolute? In a relativistic world, there are things that are absolute. There are a lot of things that are absolute. So gravity is what gravity is. It's absolute. even though our understanding of what gravity is may change from time to time, right? So we initially had this Newtonian idea of gravity where you have two masses that have a gravitational force and they attract each other almost like magnets, you know. And the closer they get, the greater the attraction that there is, the greater mass or the bigger the magnet is, the more it attracts to each other. That was kind of the Newtonian idea. And then Einstein came along and said, no, that's not actually right. There's this whole thing called relativity, and there's space-time. And in fact, what these masses do is they disrupt or they warp space-time. And space-time you can conceptualize kind of like a somewhat stretchy net, and if you put a bowling ball in that net, it will cause the net to you know, kind of come down like that. And if you have other masses, they can do the same thing, and the closer they get to each other, the closer they run into each other, and so on. I don't care. Right? Doesn't matter to me. I do know that if I come to one location on this planet and I jump, I'm going to fall back down. And wherever I try that, it's going to work. Gravity is what gravity is. Our understanding of it might change, but it itself is absolute, right? And so we also have power. Power is what power is. Now, it is absolute, but our understanding of what power is and how it works may change, but power itself doesn't change. And similarly, truth is truth. It's absolute. And our understanding of what truth is may change, but truth itself doesn't change. And again, truth is always associated with function. Right? It's not associated with dysfunction. It's always associated with function. And that which is absolute is based upon immutable or unchangeable laws. Right? So you have immutable or unchangeable laws that then govern the function of each different thing. And of course, if it's unchangeable and immutable, then it must be in harmony with truth. Truth is in harmony with law that doesn't change, and law is in harmony with truth that doesn't change, and it's absolute. Right? But our evaluation of that, our evaluation of those things that are absolute is variable, right? Because our evaluation is based upon something that can change, and in fact that did change, and that is changeable, right? And so this is where we run into a problem, because our evaluation is based upon a perception, and our perceptions we cannot be sure are correct in the normal way that we pursue or understand perceptions, right? So we need to dive into this. So the only way that our evaluations can be absolute is if we invariably use the correct or the true unchangeable law as the basis of our evaluation. If we have anything else as the basis of our evaluation, then our evaluation is going to be on an unstable, changeable foundation, and we cannot be assured of the conclusions that we come to. So we are going to do a thought experiment. In school, you are not taught how to think. You were taught how to memorize. You were taught how to regurgitate. You were taught how to, what should I say, to anticipate what your professor or your teacher wanted, and then to regurgitate information in a particular way. But none of us were really taught to think for ourselves in our schooling system, or how we think. So we're going to put together a puzzle as an example to show us how we think and why we think the way that we do. And for this puzzle, anything requires rules, right? There has to be laws, has to be rules. Even games, you can't have games without rules. So in this particular game, every puzzle piece is going to come up in the top left corner, and they're all rectangular like this, and you don't know whether the puzzle piece fits with this puzzle or not. You don't know what orientation that it's in, but you need to figure out where it goes. So here's your first piece. Where does it go? Come on. Anywhere. All right. So as far as we're concerned, it can go anywhere. Let's just slide it off to the side so that we can make room for our next piece. All right. Here's our next piece. Where does that go? All right. Somebody wants it at the bottom. We'll just throw it at the bottom. All right. We've got another piece. All right. So kind of towards the middle. All right. Very good. All right. Anybody confident you got it where it's supposed to go? No? Why not? Okay, so not enough information. So this picture that we're going to put together is going to represent your worldview. Right? It'll represent your worldview, my worldview. And the question is, how do we come to develop a worldview? If you have no context for the information, you don't know what to do with it, right? You don't know what to do with it. You don't know where it goes. You don't know how it fits and so on. And this is like little babies that are born. They don't have context. So they have lots of information that are coming to them. They have a limited capacity to be able to, what should I say, take that information and make something meaningful out of it. And it takes a lot of repetition and association for that baby to start to, be able to take smells and understand what the smells mean, or things that they see and understand what those mean, and so on. If you don't have context, you really can't do anything with the information. Got to have some kind of context. So of these pieces of information, because every puzzle piece represents a piece of information, which of those pieces gives you something useful? All right, the middle one, right? Because now you get to see that there is something there. And what is it? Mountain. All right. So now that gives you some context. Right? That gives you some context. All right. So now we have another piece. Where is that going to go? All right. Right to the other one, to the left of it. All right. Very good. Are you confident in that choice? All right. So now now there's enough context for you to now take that piece of information and decide what you're going to do with it, right? And with some measure of confidence. All right, so here's another piece. Where does it go? All right, to the left of it as well. Very good. All right, here's another piece. All right, to the left of it as well. All right, here's a bonus round. All right, to the right of it. All right, very good. All right, here's another piece. Up somewhere. All right, we'll just throw it in the top somewhere. All right, here's another piece. All right, to the left and down. All right, very good. All right. Yeah, it's upside down. We need to flip it right side up and put it somewhere on the right. Okay, on the right side. Okay, all the way to the right. We're going to throw it all the way to the right. Okay. Flip it. All right. Well, maybe. All right. Let's hold on to that. Let's hold that thought, because we might not be sure what to do with that. All right. So here we have another piece. Over to the right. All right. Very good. Yep. All right. Here's another piece. On the left. Up, straight down. Very good. All right. Now we've got a problem. And the problem is our pieces here are a bit lighter than what we have up here. So we don't know if they belong to this picture or not. Again, we don't know if all of these pieces actually fit to this or not. So here's another bonus round. All right. All right, in the middle. All right. Very good. All right. Got another piece. All right, not this puzzle. So we might be able to throw this out with the other trees and the other whatever. I don't know. Somebody else was saying maybe down. Yeah. Like oh. You mean you want to put it like right over there? Oh. Oh. All right. So that piece of information is what we would call a paradigm shift, right? So it's a piece of information that if you discard it according to what you thought you were putting together, then you continue working on the same picture you thought you were working on. But if you accept it and you figure out where it fits, it changes your whole perspective of what you're working on, right? And as somebody already mentioned towards the back, you said lake, a lake, right? All right. So now, since we have this, now a few other things are going to potentially fit that we didn't know about how they were going to fit, right? Because we notice the sky here, that's probably going to fit. And this guy, we've got an idea from pictures and scenes that we've seen before, is probably going to go somewhere over here in this dark area. Those guys are going to come down here, and we're not exactly sure about that guy yet. All right, so bonus round. All right, so bottom right. Very good. All right, now, all right, we've got a place for this black piece that we didn't have a clue. All right, and that one's going to come down. You're right. Very good. All right, now we got another round. Yep, bottom right. It's got a little piece of tree on it. There you go. All right, now that first piece that we didn't know where it was going to go, it's got enough context we can find its place. All right. All right, middle lower. All right. All right, there you go. That one's going to go in that space as well. Oops. Now we have bonus round. All right, straight down. Very good. Another bonus round. All right, over to the right. Got another bonus round. Down to the bottom. All right, if my clicker will work. There we go. And then finally, all right, there you go. Beautiful. And so we take information, we take it in, we try to find a context for it. When we have enough context, we start taking more information and putting it in there. And as that information comes in and we figure out how it fits with our existing picture, then we can eventually come to a conclusion that makes absolute sense to us, right? Makes complete sense to us. But what if we take all the information that came to us, we put it together, we now have a situation where it all makes sense, and we're actually upside down. And this is right side up. Right? Is it possible that we could have a worldview that makes sense, but is completely wrong? Right? Yeah. Well, how would we know? Well, if you had the opportunity of being able to look at the picture very closely and observing it closely, now I don't know about the graphics here. Now the graphics are not good enough here with the projectors. On the computer you could look at it and you could look closely and you would notice that there are ripple lines around here, but there aren't any ripple lines there. Right? And so by closely evaluating something, you can come to find out that there are discrepancies that you didn't notice when you just took a kind of a bird's eye view. Now, also, how could you figure out that this was wrong? If you knew the law, of light, and the law of light tells us that the sky is always lighter than the water's reflection, right? The sky's light is always lighter than the water's reflection. So we can know if we knew the law that this is upside down because the lighter is at the bottom and the darker is at the top. But everybody, what do you really want? You want the box top, the picture, right? So that you can compare it to and go, okay, does this fit? Does this not fit? Right? This is what we're looking for. So this gives us a little idea of how we think, and of course introduces the topic of the worldview. So we determine that information is true when it fits into our worldview, and we take information and discard it when we think that it does not fit our worldview. We think it's false when it doesn't fit our worldview. But the question is, what determines the worldview? Right? And the answer to that is it's the information that we believe from the ones that we trust while we're growing up. So that would be our parents, that would be our family members, that would be our friends, our teachers, our community, our culture, and so on. We take all of that information that comes to us and we put it together in a way that makes sense. But everybody comes at it from a slightly different perspective, and so everybody's worldview is slightly different. And then we take new information, and we're either going to accept it or discard it based upon our existing worldview. Right? And so new information is evaluated against that which we already believe, and it's going to be established or accepted or rejected based upon that. But the question is, what if the people that we believed in and the information that they shared with us, what if that was upside down? Yes, then we would be upside down too, all the time thinking that we are right side up. That's right. And the question is, could that be possible for us? Could it be possible for us that we think we've got it right side up, but we're actually upside down? So we can't trust ourselves. We can't trust our evaluation of information to determine if it's true if we're using worldview as our evaluation tool, right? As our standard, right? Because we're not the standard and our worldview is not the standard by which truth is determined. There has to be a standard. That standard is outside of us. That standard must be accurate, and that standard must not be able to change. In other words, we must have a standard that is law, right? We must have a standard that is law that cannot change, right? And the question is, what's that standard? Well, for those of you who were here yesterday, we talked about a law that's a foundational, fundamental law of all nature, and that is the law, the fundamental law that shows that nothing that came into existence exists or functions from itself, and nothing that came into existence exists or functions for itself. Everything is dependent upon materials, resources, power outside of itself in order to exist and function. And everything takes those materials, resources, power, and passes it along to others so that they benefit from it as well. In other words, everything takes to give, which is the law of life. And so everything needs to be evaluated according to taking to give, according to the law of life. Right? Of taking to give. Now, do we do this well? No, we don't. And there are evidences that we don't do this well. We, like this cat, get wrapped up in the wrong measure. and then we end up having problems because we're wrapped up in the wrong measure. And one of the evidences that we get wrapped up in the wrong measure is that we believe lies. And one of the lies that we believe is it's about me, right? It's about me. Well, what's a result of the idea or the thought that it's about me? All right. Yeah. All right. Selfishness, pride, greed. All right. We also, when we think that it's about me, we take it personally. All right. We take it personally. So if your cat comes and knocks over the cup and now there's water all over the table, how come it's water that's all over the table? All right. Now you come and you bump into the table and the cup knocks over and now there's tea all over the table. How come it's tea that's all over the table? All right. You're in earthquake territory and it goes shake, shake, rumble, rumble, cup spills over and now there's milk all over the table. How come it's milk that's all over the table? All right. And your friend comes and knocks into the table and the cup spills over and now there's grape juice all over the table. How come it's grape juice that's all over the table? All right. So it's not water because the cat knocked it over. It's not tea because you knocked it over. It's not milk because the earthquake knocked it over. And it's not grape juice because your friend knocked it over. It doesn't matter what knocks over the cup. All that can come out of the cup is what's in the cup. In every scenario, if there was nothing in the cup, it doesn't matter what knocked it over, nothing would come out of the cup. Right? So all that can come out of the cup is what is in the cup. Right? And the same is true for people. Right? Same is true for people. What comes out of a person can only come out of them because that's what was in them. Right? That's what was in them. So what somebody says to you and how they say it to you, what somebody does to you and how they do it to you has nothing to do with you. Right? Has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with them. Because it couldn't come out of them if it weren't in them. Right? Couldn't come out of them if it weren't in them. So when your parents or your spouse or your siblings or your children or your boss or your whoever it is says those things to you, even if it has your name attached to it and it's directed purposefully in your direction, it's not about you, it's about them. Because it couldn't come out of them if it weren't in them. Right? Couldn't come out of them if it weren't in them. But we take it as if it's about us. Right? We take it personal as if it's about us. Why? Because we've got it wrong. Because we think that what others say and what they do to us is about us. And so we take it personal. Right? The reality is it's not about me. Right? It's not about me, it's about them. You may have heard this old phrase, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. You may have heard the other phrase, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will crush my soul. Well, which is true? All right. It depends on whether it's their words or whether it's your words. All right. If it's their words, then sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. If it's my words, then sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will crush my soul. Right? You can never be hurt by someone else's words. You can never be hurt by someone else's words. I know these are like, like, no, I have been hurt by people's words in the past. I have been hurt many times by people's words in the past, and so on. That cannot be true. No, I will reaffirm to you, you cannot be hurt by someone else's words. You can only be hurt by your own words. By your own words, right? And the only way that somebody else's words hurt you is because you make them your own. You make them your own, right? So I cannot be harmed if you eat poison. And you are not harmed if I eat poison. But if I eat the poison, I get harmed by it. If you eat the poison, you get harmed by it. It's the one who eats the poison that gets harmed by the poison. Now, if somebody else is spewing out poison, and now I get harmed by it, what did I do? I took it and ate it and internalized it, and now what do? I think the words. I repeat the words, and so on, right? So if you were, let's say, for instance, you went to a comedy show. I'm not saying that you do, but anyways, let's just say you went to a comedy show, and there was a comedian there, and they were cracking jokes and throwing stuff here and there and whatever, and they look at you in the audience and they say something about how you look, your looks resemble a donkey, you know, and whatever, and the crowd laughs and so on. Uh, it's a comedian, it's a comedy show. Do you take it personally? No, right? And it goes and it flies off and so on, and it's you don't take it personal. But what if your parent? What if your parent looks at you and they tell you a comment about how you resemble the looks of a donkey? Yeah. And then the next time you're in the bathroom and you look in the mirror, you think, I look like a donkey. And you go back to the mirror again 7 days later and you think, I look like a donkey. And a year later, you look in the mirror and you think, I look like a donkey. And 10 years later, you're looking in the mirror and you're saying, I look like a donkey. We kill ourselves with our own words, right? But I don't blame anybody for taking somebody else's words. I don't. Because in our current state of being, we can't help it. Because you have to take the words of one who is your source. Right? You have to take the words of someone who is your source. And if you have your spouse as your source, you have to take their words. If you have your parent as your source, you have to take their words. If you have a child as your source, you have to take their words. If you have a friend as your source, you have to take their words. You don't have a choice for that because you have to take from your source. But the question is, should they be your source? Right? Well, we talked about yesterday in regards to love. Does it work out well if you have somebody else, another human being that needs love, to be the source of the love you need? Yeah, that's right. It won't work. And as is being mentioned here, it's like trees being hooked to other trees, being hooked to other trees, being hooked to other trees. If that's what we do, we're going to die. Humans hooked to humans, hooked to humans, hooked to humans, hooked to humans, we're all going to die because it just doesn't work that way. That which needs something cannot be the source of that which it needs. Right? Nothing that needs something can be the source of what it needs. And so if I have, unfortunately, another human being as the source of what I need, then I have to take their words. And if their words are poisonous, I have to eat the poison. I have to. Now, the other side of this coin is equally true, and that is, it doesn't matter what they said or what they did. It doesn't matter how they said it or how they did it. It doesn't matter how much sleep I got last night. It doesn't matter what the circumstances and situations are. What comes out of me can only come out of me how? If it's already in me. That's right. It can only come out of me if it's already in me. So, what I say and what I do and how I say it and how I do it even if it's aimed at you and it has your name attached to it, has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with me, because it couldn't come out of me if it wasn't already in me. Right? So if you're in a situation where things are difficult and you have a difficult person that's around you and you're constantly in conflict or arguments or other things of that nature, just remember what they say, what they do, how they say it, how they do it. It's not about you, it's about them, because it couldn't come out of them if it weren't in them. But also remember, it doesn't matter what they say and what they do. How you respond has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with you, because it couldn't come out of you if it weren't in you. Important things for us to learn. Now, do you need love? Okay, so what's the definition of a need? Okay, something that keeps you going. And if you didn't have it, you couldn't keep going, right? So it's something that you must have in order to be able to live, to survive, right? As opposed to a want. Mm-hmm. So it's something that you must have to survive, but it's also something which you cannot produce. If you could produce all of the oxygen that you need to breathe, then do you really have a need? No. And if you could produce all of the water that you need to drink, then do you really have a need? No. All right, if you could produce everything that you needed, you wouldn't have a need. Exactly. Right? Exactly. So, can you produce love? The answer is no, you can't. Right? So is that just my problem? Is that just our problem? Or is that everybody's problem? Everybody's problem. That's right, that's everybody's problem. Now, we do have this thing called natural selection. And natural selection is the process whereby organisms better adapted to their environment tend to survive and produce more offspring. Right? Now, what if you introduced into the population a need for something which there was no supply? The whole population would die, right? It would be wiped out. There would be no continued existence of whatever that species or whatever that population was, because if you need something but you have no supply for that thing, you have just guaranteed extinction, right? So, human beings, how many of us need love? All of us. How many of us are the source of that love? Zero, none of us, right? None of us. So if we all need it and none of us are the source of it, how long have we needed love? I mean, it's in Sanskrit writings, it's in, Egyptian hieroglyphics and so on. It's been thousands of years. All right. So there has to be a source for love that is not human, and the source does not need love. Mm-hmm. Right. So what's that source of love? Well, do you need a love that is full or incomplete? Do you need a love that's constant or intermittent? Do you need a love that is unselfish or selfish? Do you need a love that's personal or impersonal? Okay, so we need a love that is full, that's constant, that's unselfish, that's personal. What if we believe we can find that here? All right. If you believe it, well, yes, you think you need it, but you'll think you'll be able to supply it here. Right? You think you'll be able to supply it here. So there's another lie that we believe, and that lie is, I need love from another person. I need love from another person. In other words, another person can be my source of love, right? Of what I need. Right? Okay. So, how many have believed this lie? All of us. All of us. Every one of us. Right? All of us have believed this lie, and most of us are living on it or dying because of it. So let's say that you have a neighbor, and that neighbor is one of those needy neighbors, and they're always coming over for something, and you know that you can expect every few days there's going to be a knock at the door, and they come, and this day they want some flour, and then they come back later and they want some sugar, and they come back later and they want some eggs, and they come back later and they want some bowl and an egg beater, and and you got the idea they're making cake today, and you're their delivery, you're their store, and so on. That's just kind of neighbor you got. And one day it's the desperate knock. And so you can't leave this one alone, so you go and you answer the door, and there they are, and they are desperate. And it's not for milk, eggs, cheese, butter, and all that kind of stuff. They are desperate because their child has come down with a condition. They wondered what was going on. They've been going and trying to figure it out, and they finally got it figured out. And it's a rare condition, and it's so far been universally fatal. And so the doctors have told them, hospice, go do your bucket list, and expect, that the end is going to come. Well, this neighbor is as persistent on the internet as they are on your door. And so they're not like the usual internet searcher that hits hits the first 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 hits on Google. They will actually go to the second page, the third page, the fourth page, and the 100th page, and so on of Google results. And they have found that there is a center off in somewhere that has figured out, in another country, that has figured out how to treat this condition, and they've got a 50-50 success rate in doing so, and they want to take their child there and save their life. It just happens to be $5 million they have to pay up front in order for the treatment, and they're asking you for $5 million. How many of you are going to give them the $5 million? Ah, so cruel. Such heartless people. Nobody's gonna save this child and give it life and so on. Is that a problem that you don't have it? All right. So the problem is that you don't have $5 million, right? But maybe you have $1,000 that you can give them towards this goal. And so you give them $1,000, and they come back tomorrow and they want the rest of the $5 million. And they come back several times a day knocking on the door asking for the rest of the $5 million because they want to save their child, and they're desperate for their child's life, right? How do you feel? You feel pressured, right? Guilty? Yeah. All right. So you're at least frustrated because you don't have what they need and they think that you do. And you can't satisfy their need because you don't have the capacity to do so. But how do they feel? Well, they feel desperate and they're frustrated too because they're coming to you thinking you've got what they need and you're not giving it to them, and they're going deficient, right, of what they need. All right, they believe that another human is the source of them or what they need, yes. All right, so welcome to relationships. All right. Welcome to relationships. You have one person that looks at the other person as the source of what they need, and they're desperate to get from that person love and acceptance and belonging and harmony and security and all of these different things. And the other person has need of every one of those different things and cannot be the source of those different things for another person. And you need a love that is what? that's full, constant, uh, unselfish, and personal, right? So you need a love that's like that. How many people have you met that has that kind of love? Yeah, no one, right? So they go to you so that you can satisfy their need of a love that you cannot supply, and you get frustrated because you think you should be able to supply their need for this kind of love, and they're unsatisfied, and so you're frustrated, they're frustrated, everybody's frustrated. Why? Yes, because you can't supply their needs, because your expectations are wrong. You're barking up the wrong tree. You believed lies, but you thought they were true. And you lived according to the lies and found out it doesn't work. Because error always is in harmony with dysfunction. Error is always in harmony with dysfunction. Truth is always in harmony with function. So there's another lie, and that is that others must meet my needs. Right? Others must meet my needs. It's a nice idea. We like it. It seems to be very romantic. I remember one of the movies I watched long ago. The tagline on it was, "You complete me." Yes, one of those types of movies. Not one of the kinds of "get out of my way, hole, 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 hole," right? But no, yeah, "you complete me." Oh, 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 really? Okay. So incomplete in one way plus incomplete in the same way somehow becomes complete. Yeah, it doesn't work. Doesn't work that way. So whose responsibility is it for me to be filled with oxygen? That's mine. I got to breathe. Right? Whose responsibility is it for me to be filled with water? That's mine. I've got to drink. And whose responsibility is it for me to be filled with proper nutrients? That's mine. I got to eat it. So have you ever been empty when it comes to love? Or at least not full? Yeah. So whose responsibility is it for me to be filled with love? Is it mine? All right. But where do I go to get a love that is full, that's constant, that's unselfish, and personal? It has to be a source that does not need love. It has to be a source that has love that is full, constant, unselfish, and personal, right? And doesn't need it itself. So the source of love must produce the love, can give the love, doesn't need love, and loves others fully, constantly, unselfishly, and personally, but doesn't need to be loved by others, because the source of something can never need what it produces. Right? So that source is, all right, yeah, it's God. All right, it's God. God is the source of the love that you need. Right? And we didn't see it very well in what was put in nature. We didn't see it very well in what was put in the law. And so somebody came to give us a living illustration of what it looked like. Right? And that was Jesus. Right? So we have to have a source that's not like us. And the question is, what's our standard? By what standard do we use to evaluate information to determine whether it's true? And I am going to propose to you a standard that we've already proposed, but we're going to propose it in a different form. And that is, to the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it's because there's no light, there's no truth in it. right? We're in them. So when it talks about the law and the testimony, what is it talking about? All right, it's talking about the Bible. And specifically, it's talking about the law of God. Specifically talking about the law of God, because the law, of course, and then the testimony. At points in the Old Testament scriptures, it talks about the ark that the law was put into, and it calls it the ark of the testimony. The ark of the testimony. And so we're looking at the law that was written on stone, that is unchangeable, and that is the law that governs love, the function of love. So let's break it down a little bit. Of those 10 commandments, 4 on the first stone and 6 on the second stone, we have that we should not have any other gods before us, that we shouldn't make any graven image, that we shouldn't take the name of the Lord our God in vain. All of those that begin with "you shouldn't do this" in the first table essentially tell us don't take from here, don't take like this, right? Don't take from other gods, because there aren't any. Don't take from things that were created as if they were God. Don't take my name, Christian, and live like the world, and so on, right? Don't take from here, don't take like this. And then we have another 5 thou shalt nots. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery, right? 6 and 7, thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not covet. And then goes on to mention a number of things to do so. And that essentially tells us, again, don't take from here, don't take like this. Don't take from people as your source of life and identity. Don't take from others your intimacy. Don't take from others stuff. Don't take from others reputation or respect. Don't take from others, don't even think about taking from others. Right? That's not where you take from. So that leaves us with 2 commandments, one on the first stone and one on the second stone. And that fourth one on the first stone says, remember. As if God knew we would forget. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. And then it tells us to do something on that Sabbath day. What does it call us to do on the Sabbath day? Rest. That's right. Now, is rest something that you do, or is rest something that you experience? It's something that you experience. Rest is not something that you do, right? And that's where many of us have gotten it messed up, right? We've gotten it mixed up. Rest is not something that you do. Rest is something that you experience. Can you be rested when you're suffocating? Are you rested when you're starving? Are you rested when you're dehydrating? No. You are rested when your needs are met, right? When your need for water is met, then you feel rested. When your need for oxygen is met, then you feel rested. When your need for food is met, then you're rested. Rest is a state of existence where your needs are met, right? Where your needs are satisfied. So the Sabbath commandment is a representation of our needs being satisfied by whom? God, who is the source of it. And that fourth commandment goes on to say who the God is who wrote the commandments. He's the creator of the heavens and the earth. So everything came from him. He's the source. So that commandment bids us to come to God, who's the source of everything that we need, and take until we are full. Right? Take until we're filled. Take until we're full. And when we take from God what we need until we're full, then we're at rest. Right? We're at rest. Right? So, we first come to take, but do we take so that we keep it to ourselves? We take to give. Right? We take to give. So, the fifth commandment says that we should do what to our father and mother? Honor them, right? We should honor them. Do you have honor by which you can honor your father and your mother? Have you tried to honor them, and did you fail at doing so? Yeah. Is honor honor if it's partial honor? If you have some dishonor in honor, is that honor or dishonor? Dishonor. So honor is only honor when honor is completely honor. Right? Honor is only honor when it's completely honor. If there's any dishonor in your honor, then your honor is dishonor. Right? So, do you have an honor by which you can honor your father and your mother? No. So what do you have to do in order to be able to honor father and mother? You have to first take honor from who? God, who has honor. And when you take honor from God, then you can give honor to your father and your mother. The only way that you can ever do anything on this table of stone is because you first came to this table. The only way you can do anything good to people is because you first come to God and take what you need from Him. Right? So the one that you need, you are dependent upon. The one you need, you are dependent upon. The one you take from, you're dependent upon. It's like anybody ever looked for country property? Well, if you found this place, you might choose to move, right? And so you've got the nice mountains that are up here, and you've got a nice river running through it and coming down this way. And let's say that there's a property upstream, there's a property in the middle, there's another property downstream, and the one in the middle is for sale, and it's just the right price. Whatever you got, they will take it, and you can have it. And so you decide you're going to buy that property in the middle, and you've got all this nice water to which you can, where you can, you can grow your crops. You have this nice water, so you can have showers and you can drink and and so on. And you can even run some hydroelectric power through there in order to power your place, and so on. It's wonderful. And when you get time, you can plant some trees down by the river and set up a few hammocks, and you can enjoy, it's nice. Good stuff, right? Well, one day your neighbor downstream decides that they're going to start this factory, and they suck all this water out of the river, and they spit this black stuff into it, and on downstream it goes. Does that directly affect you? No, it doesn't. You still have all of the fresh water that you need. You have everything that you take. It goes into the neighbor's property. They muck it up, and then it goes on downstream. That doesn't directly affect you. But what if your neighbor upstream decided to do the same thing? Would that directly affect you? Yes, right? That would affect you, and it would affect everybody downstream from that individual, but it wouldn't affect anybody upstream from them, right? So you are dependent upon the ones you take from, but you are independent of the ones that you give to. If they're upstream from you and they're not good, you can't tolerate it. Right? If they're upstream from you and they're not good, you can't tolerate it because you need something that is good. You need something that's good. If they're downstream from you and they're not good, well, that's their problem. Because they're downstream, they're not your source, right? So according to the law, who is to be our source? God. Who else? God. Yep, God, right? So according to the law, we have one source. That's God. right? But we got a lot of places where we can give to, right? And the ones you give to, you're independent of. Now, what kind of love does God have? Selfish love? Unselfish love? Unselfish. So if you come to God and you take from Him and He's unselfish, then what kind of love are you going to give to others? Unselfish love. That's right. That's right. So if you have this situation, if you have good water coming down your stream, what's going to go out of your stream usually? Good water. And if you had bad water coming into your stream, what's you going to have going out? Bad water. Right? All right, so we're talking about people, even though we're talking about rivers and properties, we're talking about people, right? So what comes out of you, whether it's good or bad, is not the problem. Right? Right. So what comes out of you is not the problem. What you say and what you do, however bad it may be, is not the problem. It's your source. That's right. The problem is your source. If your source is bad, you can't help it. What comes out of you is going to be bad. Can't help it, right? But if you have a good source, then you can't help it. What comes out of you is going to be good. Because if you take good, then you have good, and you can give good. But if you take bad, then you have bad, and you're going to give bad. All right, so if you take good and bad, you're actually going to give both. So it'll be mixed, but the good that you give will appear good, but it'll have a bad motive behind it. And you can't make your motive right yourself. That's a problem, right? Because Jesus did say, well, James said it, that you can't put forth a stream or a fountain or a well that is both salty and good. It's one or it's the other, right? So if you have bad words that come out of your mouth, if you have bad responses to others, if you have bad actions and body language and so on towards others, that's not the problem. That's only the manifestation of the problem, right? That's right. The source is the problem. Where you're taking from is the problem. And the fix is not to fix the language. The fix is not to fix the actions. The fix is not to fix the reactions. The fix is to fix the source, where you're taking from. Right? That's where the fix is going to be. Right? So the law of God shows us that we are to take to give. And that is love. Love is taking all that you need from God so that you're full, and then giving freely to others regardless of what they're like, because they're downstream. You don't need them. And so if they're not good, if they don't respond well, and so on, well, that's their problem, not your problem. You have your source. You can come to God and you can take everything that you need and be full and satisfied regardless of what they're like. Right? Now, is evil a new creation? No. Evil is simply taking good and turning it around, right? Because God created things to function in a particular way, and evil is to take that order and to reorder it. So, good, love, is taking all you need from God and giving to others. What is evil? Taking from others and giving to God. Evil is taking from others and giving to God. So if I have others as my source, and I need them to be good for me, I need them to speak good words, I need them to accept me, I need them to speak well of me. I need them to think well of me, and so on and so forth. And then my interactions with God is simply for me to give to God, give to God, give to God. Do I have things the right way or the wrong way? Wrong way. It's evil. It's evil. But it's evil in church. Right? It's evil in church. But that's how the vast majority of us live. Right? Because we were born that way. We were born that way. So I don't blame anybody for it, but we need to recognize it, or else we're never going to be able to change and get out of it. Right? Now remember, there was a fundamental law that nothing that came into existence exists or functions from itself, and nothing exists or functions for itself. In other words, everything takes to give. Oh, hang on. Where did we see take to give? The Ten Commandments. So what's the fundamental law of all nature? It's take to give. It's the Ten Commandments. Right? So the Ten Commandments is the foundational law of all nature, by which everything functions, whether physical or whether spiritual. Right? Because it's the foundation of thermodynamics. It's the foundation of cause and effect. Right? It's also, from a spiritual standpoint, this law of life of taking to give, it has spiritual implications, and that is that you and I and everything in creation are just channels by which God's resources pass from one to another to another. And so we take from God and his appointed source, his appointed channels that we connect to, and then we use those to pass on to others for their function and for their life. All of us and all of creation functions as a channel, taking from the source and giving along, right? Passing along to others. And that is unselfish love. Now, let's take that law of taking to give and evaluate a statement by that law. All right, here's a statement, and this is a statement made by Jesus. And it's in Matthew 22:37 to 39. It says, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. This is the first and great commandment, and the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself." According to the law, what does this statement mean? All right, so it's the Ten Commandments. Yes, it's reiterating the Ten Commandments. Now, I'm going to reread this according to how I understood it growing up. I shall give to the Lord my God with all my heart, with all my soul, with all my mind. This is the first and great commandment, and the second is like it. I shall give to my neighbor as myself. That's how I understood it. Right? So here I am with the God plant and the people plant, and I have my hose, and I've got one end of my hose watering God with one end, and I've got the other end of my hose watering people with the other end. How well is that going to work? It's not going to work at all. Because I'm not the creator, I can't create anything. I'm only a channel through which it can flow. So what does this mean according to the law? What's the nature of the love of God or the love for God? It's taking. It's taking, right? So this actually means when we evaluate it according to law, we take the law as our standard, then this means that you shall take from the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, and with all of your mind. Come to him and take everything that you need from your soul. Take from him everything you need for your heart. Take from him everything that you need for your mind. Come and take from God until you're full. Then you will love your neighbor as yourself. It's automatic. You can't help it. It will just happen, right? Because the taking is right, the giving will be right, right? So, as we evaluate information, whether it's physical information or spiritual information, we must interpret it and evaluate it not by our own standard, not by our own worldview, but by a standard that is unchangeable and that is true, and it is according to function, and that is the law of life, the law of God, and unselfish love. And if we consistently use the law as our standard, then we're going to accept truth, we're going to reject lies, and we will all come to complementary conclusions. Might not all be looking at the same part of the puzzle, but when we bring all of our puzzle pieces together, they'll all fit. Because the truth doesn't contradict itself. Right? Doesn't contradict itself. All right, one more lie, and then we'll take a break. It's mine. That's a lie. It's mine. All right, so imagine with me that you have someone that you love, and you want to get them the perfect present for some occasion that's coming up. And so you think about them and their personality and so on, and you go shopping for, looking around, shopping online, shopping in stores. You finally find it, whatever it is, that present that's just going to be perfect for them and their personality. And you don't have enough money. So you save up for a little while. You've been preparing in advance, and so you save up for a little while. You eventually get enough money. You buy the present. You get it wrapped up nicely, and eventually that day arrives, and you come and you knock on the door. And they open the door, and you hand them their present, and they take the present, and they throw it on the ground, they stomp on it, and they slam the door. How do you feel? Terrible? What's that? Betrayed? Hurt? Hatred? All right. Despite? Disappointed? Yeah, definitely. Yeah. All right. So these are all different ways that we feel in that particular scenario. All right. Next scenario. You work for Oops, and you've been working for them for a while, and and you enjoy your job. They pay you well. You're one of those brown people. You wearing brown clothes, driving brown vehicles, carrying brown packages, knocking on brown doors, and and so on. And so, one day you stop at a particular residence, you grab the package for the home, you go up to the home, you knock on the door, and the resident comes out, you have them sign for the package, they sign for it, you hand them the package, they take it, they throw it on the ground, they stomp on it, and they slam the door. How do you feel? Don't care. Yeah, they ordered it, they can do whatever they want to it. Surprised, disappointed maybe that they didn't accept whatever that was. Maybe they knew who it came from and they knew they needed to do that because the rattlesnake was still alive in there. I don't know. Whatever it was, I'm getting out of here and I'm going to the next place to dump, I made my money while I was doing it and so on. So why is our response one way in the first scenario and exactly different, opposite in another scenario? Well, in the first scenario, I think it's mine, right? That was my present. It was purchased with my money. It represents my love, and that was my loved one. In the second scenario, it's not mine, right? It's not my present. It wasn't my money. It wasn't my love, and that wasn't my loved one. So the degree to which you think it's yours is the degree to which you will be hurt, rejected, disappointed, angry, and so on and so forth when the gift is not treated the way that you thought that it should be and not accepted the way that you thought it should be. But the degree to which you believe that it's not yours is the degree to which you will not take it personally when they do something like that with the gift, because it's not your gift. Didn't come from you. You were only the delivery person of whatever that gift was, right? So in the first scenario, I see myself as the owner. In the second scenario, I recognize I'm the steward. It's not my resources. It's only my privilege to be able to carry it from one place to the next, right? But it's not mine. And so many of us see ourselves as the owner, even though we intellectually know that we're not, because I can ask a whole group of individuals, how much of what you have do you actually own? And every crowd tells me, none. We don't own anything. It all belongs to God. But when you gave the present and the present gets smashed like that, do you take it personally? Yeah. Why? Because you actually see it as your own. Right? And you react to it as if it's your own as the owner. Now, there's another side to this story, and that is one of the reasons that I'm upset the way that I am is because I didn't receive what I expected. So there was some kind of expectation of how that gift was going to be received. Maybe I expected them to be happy. I at least expected them to accept the gift. Maybe a thank you, maybe a hug, maybe something of that nature, depending upon the relationship, would depend upon what I expect in regards to their response to that gift. Right? So human love, as we understand it, in the context that you and I have grown up in, human love gives in order to receive. Right? Human love gives with an expectation of receiving something in return for that gift. So you've heard the phrase, no strings attached. Well, there's always strings attached. Right? There's no such thing as no strings attached. And so they're always there. If somebody gives you a little gift, you know that there's a little string. If they give you a big gift, there's a big string. They can pull harder, right? And what we thought were gifts are not gifts. They're manipulation tools, right? And that's what makes us a bit squeamish about receiving gifts, is because we understand in human nature a gift is not a gift. A gift is an investment, right? If we put something of value in someone else to get something of greater value back. And if we don't get our return on investment, oh, that's not going so well, right? Not going so well. For example, I love you. Is that when you tell your loved one, I love you, is that a statement of fact or is that a request? It cannot be both. You can never have both motivations at the same time. It's either for you or for them. It can never be for both at the same time. All right. So, if you tell them, I love you, and they say, okay. And then you say, I love you, and they say, whatever. And you tell them, I love you, and they say, well, that's your problem. And you tell them, I love you, and they say, well, I don't love you. And you tell them, I love you, and they continue coming back with some kind of response of that nature. How long do you continue saying, I love you? Yeah, not very long, right? How long are you going to go fishing with a certain bait which never catches a fish? Yeah, maybe once. And then you're going to try a different bait. You know, if you go and you're going to try to catch some bluegill, and you get a big old hook and put a shark's head on that hook, and then go trying to catch little bluegill with a shark head, yeah, not going to work. You're never going to catch it. Wrong bait, right? So I love you is bait. And what is I love you bait for? To get love. What we're looking for is I love you too. Right? I love you too. And as long as we get the I love you too back, the fishing trip was a success, life is good. But when we go fishing with the I love you and we don't get the I love you back, now we got problems, right? And who has problems, them or us? Us. Because I didn't receive, I love you back. Because the gift was not a gift, it was an investment. It was something of value, yes, but it was given with the expectation of value in return. You don't know your motivation and why you give the gifts that you do until it doesn't turn out well. Right? You don't know. Because selfishness and unselfishness look exactly the same when things are going well. They do. Selfishness and unselfishness are very generous when things are going well. It's only when it doesn't go well, then how you respond when it's not going well tells you whether your motivation was for you or for them. Right? Because if you're personally hurt when it doesn't go well, then you know your motivation was for you. If you hurt for them when things don't go well, then you know your motivation was for them. Right? And how much return do you need? Well, it just depends upon your expectations. So the only way you can mitigate your losses is to simply lower your expectations. And we play that game quite often. Right? Lower our expectations. We're going to talk about that more in the next session as we look at why we do what we do and get into the heart of the problem a little bit deeper, because we need to understand the problem well before we can understand the solution that needs to be applied to it. So in the next section, we're going to get a bit deeper into the problem, and then from there, we're going to dig ourselves out and get to the solutions and get to some bright light along the way. And so we're going to take a 5-minute break, right? 5-minute break. There are bathrooms around the corners this way. There's water in the back. Oh, there's bathrooms that way too. This is a circular room anyway, so you go around the circle one way, you'll find bathrooms. You go around the other way, you'll find bathrooms. If you keep going circles, you'll never find the bathrooms, but you'll get exercise. 5 minutes, we'll be back and carry on from here.